Hi, Mecole. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. So, how's the last 12 hours been? Are you just kind of unpacking everything?
Oh my God, it's been such a whirlwind. Every other day I was in the house saying, this house is a mind warp. It feels like you forget everything that you've known prior to coming into the house, and you really do have to acclimate yourself to the world that is Big Brother in the BB house. So it has definitely been a whirlwind to say the least.
I bet. What do you think? I mean, at what point, I guess, what do you point to as like your downfall? Like, where did your game go wrong, would you say?
I think a lot of my game went wrong with staying true and trying to stay loyal to the brown sugar babes. And then following the Izzy eviction, where I made the final two with Mama Fee, and she started to go around and paint us as this duo and pitch these alliances that we should be in and these people that we should work with and try to, carve all of these avenues for us to the end. I think that really was to my detriment. I think prior to that, I hadn't really been seen as someone who was in one of these duos or trios that we've seen throughout the season. And I think that had been working well for me, to be honest. But as soon as, Mama Fee kind of gets into this latching of me and going around and saying, me, you and Mimi should do this, and me and Mimi should work with you guys to do that. People were kind of like, all right, maybe we should start to look at Mimi. And I think that's kind of where things started to go downhill.
Yeah, I will say, and I don't know if you've heard this yet today, but like, some of what you said in the diary room and like in your storage room rants were really fun to watch. Like a lot of what you would say is kind of like what the audience was thinking. So it was really fun to watch you. And I think we were all just waiting to like, okay, Mimi's got this. She's gonna like turn it on toward the end. Like, had you planned to kind of stay on the down low, I guess, throughout the game, or did you have a plan to maybe change it up? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, so, very early on, I did want to play a very low key game because you had some really, really strong competitors in the house. And you still have strong competitors in the house, but and also some really big personalities, right? You have Izzy, and then there's Mama Fee, there's Cirie, there was Heisem, there was Riley. You had Red, who was also a personality, Cameron, who's had such an interesting journey, Jag and Matt, who are also just, this dynamic duo. So I knew that there would and had been such bigger threats and targets in the house. And so very early on, I try not to get my hands too dirty. I knew that down the line, as the numbers started to dwindle, I wanted people to know that I hadn't really been a part of a lot of the madness that had happened prior to that big fallout between Jared and Corey, where everybody's game was kind of blown up because all of the alliances had been exposed. And I wasn't the one that was masterminding any of them. And there were quite a few that I actually had no idea about. And so as I kind of navigated the weeks following that, I really wanted to lean into the fact that I was a trustworthy player. I was someone who was honest. When you came to me and told me anything, I didn't go around spilling your secrets. I was someone who tried to play the game with as much integrity as possible. I think a part of my downfall also was that I didn't win. So I didn't really ever get to show my hand and really let people know where I stood because I was never really in a position of power. But I always, knew who the threats and who the targets were and who people should be going after in the house. I just didn't know how everyone else felt about it. So I didn't want to run around saying all of these crazy things and trying to mastermind all of these plans and have that ultimately be my demise. But you're darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? I
Yeah.
would say like, yeah, laying low is a great strategy. And then you never threw any comps, right? Were you trying to win or did you throw a few?
I never had thrown any comps. Which comp? The We Come in Pieces, the puzzle that we done that Cameron won after the battle back. I had alluded to the fact that I would possibly throw that comp because, I was at the time really trying to separate myself from Mama Fee. I knew that based on some of the conversations that I was having, that people started to see us as a duo and may have had some concern around that. And I also knew that she'd gone around talking about Final Fours and all of this with people outside of me and not even telling me that she was doing that, which I thought was a very interesting strategy. But I started to really try to separate myself with her. And I was also leaning to the fact, I don't feel like I have anybody after the big blow up. I don't really know who I could trust. I really trusted Cirie and Izzy and so on and so forth. And now I can't trust anybody. And I feel so alone. And I don't feel like I'm in a position to, possibly go out here and win and make anybody feel uncomfortable. At least that's what I was saying to Jag at the time. And I really wanted people to believe that. But under no circumstances did I leave my husband a month after my wedding to go out there and throw a comp for these idiots. Absolutely not. Of course not.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of Felicia, like, had she gone home this week, which was the original plan, but this house, they, flip and flop. Who did you want to work with once she was gone? What were your options in your mind?
Yeah, so once Mama Fee had left the house, I really did want to work with Blue. I'd had a conversation with her and Cirie prior to about us possibly forming some type of three-person trio alliance in which we could try to navigate through the rest of that game based on what she was saying. And I know that Blue's a very smart player. She felt like she was on the bottom of whatever Matt and Jag had. And so I think that she was just trying to carve out different avenues for herself. But I'm pretty positive that they have a final three. I would be silly to think that they don't. And I also thought that it would probably be smart to align myself with Cameron. I was going into this next week, had I stayed in the house, saying that if I win HOH, I'm putting Matt and Jag on the block. I think that's the best move for this game. I know everyone is leaning into this idea that Cameron has to go and, he's the most competitive player, but there will always be a target on Cameron's back. People will always want to get Cameron out of the house. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth for Jag and Matt. I remember when he was on the block against Red, and I was the one that was really pushing for him to go out the door that week. There were so many people, including Red, who was saying that they didn't want him to go, which I thought was very interesting because you have someone who's sitting on the block next to you also saying that they don't know how they feel about them leaving the house. So I always knew that Jag was a big threat in this game and was very, very smart and a lot smarter than he probably sometimes appeared to be on the surface. So, that was always a concern of mine.
So whose game is impressing you the most, I guess, now that you're outside the house? Are you like, who do you think's playing a pretty good game?
I think that Matt is playing a pretty good game. Obviously, he is an Olympian and has an affinity for winning. And although he hasn't won that much this season, we obviously know that he can win and put the pedal to the metal when necessary. He's also just well liked by everyone, and everyone kind of takes to him and kind of rallies around him most of the time. So I could see Matt sitting in those final two chairs if he doesn't leave sooner rather than later. And I also think that Corey is playing a very interesting game. I'm not sure for how long he'll be able to play the game, especially after the little white lie that I may have spread before I left the house yesterday. But I do think that people look to him as a strategist and as someone who they could beat at the end of this game when it comes down to it. So, let's see how it plays out.
Mimi, has anyone told you that like your old tweets are going viral? Not for a bad reason, but like in a funny way?
I've heard that a tweet or two has gone viral in the past day or so.
You just have like all these old tweets that like apply to like the current status. Like you're like, I need to get out of this house. I swear it's boring as fuck. I seriously need to leave this house. Welp, season's over. I was getting too comfortable. Like just funny things that people are resurfacing like as if it's happening now and you're a time traveler.
That is insane. I love baby Mimi. She was super intuitive. Shout out to her.
Anything you think you missed now that you know that Cirie and Jared are related? Like anything you're like, oh, wait.
It all makes sense. She spent so much time in the HOH room whenever he won HOH. Even when Blue was up there and they were just kind of chilling and hanging out, she was also there. Especially when he got evicted and had to, battle his way back in the zombie resurrection. She was the only one who was out there vocal, coaching him. through that seesaw of a game. And afterwards, when he lost to Cam, he was very emotional about it. And, she was in there consoling him and just giving him advice. And him moving out of the scary room and into the comic room in the bed next to hers, and just how close of a relationship they had, how Jared would run and tell her anything that anyone had said about her. It all makes sense now. I couldn't really make sense of it in the moment, but it makes so much sense now.
Yeah. I know we have to wrap up. Did you know that Blue knows about the secret? Like Jared told her?
No.
Yeah, he told
I
her. He doesn't know that Blue knows.
Oh, I am shook. If I thought I was shook before, I am even more shook. This is a mess.
Oh my God. Well, I know you gotta go, Mimi, but do you want to play Big Brother again? Or are you interested in any other shows?
I would love to go on the Amazing Race. I also love to do the challenge. And if BB's looking for me again, I ain't too hard to find. Call your girl.